Last week, we studied about finances. And this evening, we would study something again a little bit serious, no? But let me ask everyone this question. Is the world getting better or worse? What do you think? Sino naniniwala that it's getting better? Taas nyo kamay nyo. Wala. Sino naniniwala it's getting worse? Sinong hindi magtataas ng kamay kahit anong sabihin ko, okay? Now, a lot of us would really agree that the world is really getting worse, right? And I saw this survey. I was researching online, and I saw this survey. It was from a website which had around 14 million users, and they asked people from 17 countries if they believe that the world is getting better or getting worse, or maybe even neither getting better or worse. And these are the results. Let's show the survey. 1% said they don't know if it's either getting better or worse. 58% said it's getting what? Getting worse. Then we have 30% who said neither, and then 11% maybe getting better. But all of us would agree that the world is really getting worse, right? Do you know what happened last May 23? Ano nangyari? In Mindanao, what happened in Mindanao? Yeah, Marawi was attacked, right? Everyone was surprised. Everyone was scared. And this group called Maute started to attack the city, kill civilians, and right now there's a war ongoing between the army and between this group. And a lot of us were scared as well because we're thinking, paano na-penetrate ng ISIS ang Pilipinas? Ang Pilipinas nating mahal. And a lot of us were scared. Not only that, in June 2, what happened? Resorts World, right? June 2, in the midnight, Friday, a lone gunman attacked Resorts World. And then he set the resort or the casino on fire. And there are 38 individuals who died because of the smoke, including the gunman. You know, there's so many things that are happening right now in the world that we would all agree that the world is really getting worse. There's so much evil. There's so much wickedness. And then last Tuesday, I don't know if you watched this, right? Did you hear that there was a bombing that happened in LRT, in church, and in one church, and in a mall? Di nyo ba napanood yun? Di nyo nakita yun? Di nyo napanood? And then, not only that, one child of a famous police officer died. Okay? Di nyo kilala? Namatay ang anak ni Cardo sa probinsyano last Tuesday. Okay. Ano lang, this is just to break the ice because again, friends, this is a really very serious topic. But this is not real, okay? Hindi nangyari yan. So just to let everyone know, this did not happen. This is just a series, an episode. Anyway, ano yan? Last Tuesday na episode. Talagang alam ko yun, no? June 27. But you know, again, we would all agree, right, that there's so much evil. Now, we don't only have to look at the news. Even in our personal life, you would agree, you know, I've encountered so many evil things where people have wronged me, people have shown me wickedness and all of those things. We would all agree on that. And we have experienced those things. I remember when I was just working, or first time working in the corporate world, and I had this gadget. Alam niyo ba itong gadget na to? Alam niyo yan? Nabutan niyo yan? Yeah. Ano yan? That is iPod Touch. First gen, second gen, ano sa tingin nyo? First gen. Kailan yan ni-release? 2000? Buhay na ba kayo? Buhay na naman siguro kayo yan, right? Now, it's 2007. This was the first generation of iPod Touch released last 2007. They first released iPhone, and then after that, they released iPod Touch, a cheaper version of the iPhone because you can't text or call anyone with that gadget. And I love that gadget. That was the time where the touchscreen technology was blooming. So I bought one, and you know, I had so many games. I was listening to music. Then yung mga games ko, yung mga games na puzzles, yung mga pang-geek. And I love those. I love those games. And every time I would go to work, I would have that, or I would bring that iPod Touch. But in my first company, we had to be trained for 3 months muna before being deployed in the production area or in the real office scenario. And so I had this iPod Touch, and I was bringing it, and it was my first day in the office because after our training, we were now deployed. And this is what happened. I was listening to it, and then lunchtime came. I hid my iPod Touch in one of my cabinets, and then went out for lunch. And then when I came back, what happened? It was stolen. Friends, first day of work. Right? In your first day of work, you want to give a lasting impression upon your classmates, upon your boss, your office mates. Pero first day of work, I was causing such a commotion sa office namin that my boss had to call a team meeting, had to address everyone and let them know na kung sino man nagnako niyan, come forward and nothing will happen in all of those things. And they even searched everyone's bag. Now, they did not find who stole my iPhone, but that was a reality check for me. That I need to take care of my belongings, and indeed, there's just so much evil, so much wickedness that is happening in the world right now. Now, some of you may have experienced worse situations than this. Some of you may have shown kindness to someone or have given a certain amount to someone generously, but you were never repaid back. Or you showed kindness only to learn that that person talked behind your back. Only to learn that that person gossiped about you or badmouthed you. Or maybe you experienced showing love to that individual and then that person would just verbally or even physically attack you. You know, these things are maybe some of the things that we have experienced. And when those things happen in our life, how do we respond? Number one, we can either get angry. Right? We can either get angry at that person who badmouthed us and harbor that unforgiveness, that bitterness in our heart. Or number two, maybe we will retaliate. Because that person badmouthed us, we would also spread gossips about that person. Na walang butas yung ilong niya, na anim yung daliri niya, yung mga ganon. That we would talk behind that person's back as well. Or worse, we would blame God. We would ask God, Lord, why are you allowing this evil thing to happen to me? Am I not good? Did I not serve you? Do I not serve in the church? Do I not attend Sunday service regularly? These are some of the responses that can happen when evil things happen to us. That's why, friends, there is a need for us to know when these things happen to us, when evil is being done to us, how do we respond? We don't want to harbor anger or bitterness. Someone once said, right? Anger is like drinking poison, expecting that person to die. Or we don't want to retaliate, do something that we will regret. And of course, we don't want to wave our fist at God and blame Him for everything that is happening in our life. So how do we respond? When these evil things happen to us, how do we respond? Friends, our response, listen to this, our response will depend upon our understanding of who God is. That's why this evening, let us try to know who God is. Let us try to understand the goodness of God. That when these evil things happen upon us, that we will not blame Him, but we would learn to trust Him and learn to trust His goodness. That's why the title of our message this evening is this: Trust God's Goodness. Can everyone say that? Trust God's goodness. And again, we included this in the ini series because I know at one point we will encounter wickedness. We would encounter people showing us evil or doing wrong against us. And we can be angry at them or we can be angry at God. And we need to know how to respond when those situations happen. Because ultimately, when those things happen in our life, when evil things happen in our life, we are actually questioning God. And we are asking this question. And this is the question: how can a good God allow evil to happen to good people? Right? That's our complaint. That's the question that we are asking God. Lord, if you are really good, why are you allowing evil to happen to good people? If you are good, Lord, why won't you stop massacre from being happen? If you are good, why won't you stop a child from being raped? If you are good, why won't you stop a plane from being hijacked and bombing a building? Lord, if you are good, why are you allowing all of these things? But let's assume that the Lord will intervene, that He will not allow a family to be massacred, that He will not allow a child to be raped, that He will not allow a plane to be hijacked. But isn't it just right? If the Lord will intervene in that evil, that the Lord will intervene in other evils as well. Like He will intervene when we are angry. He will intervene when we lie. He will intervene when we cheat our taxes. That He should also intervene in all evil. Because this is the problem. Sometimes we define evil as the major headlines that we see in the news. But evil exists in every sin that is committed against God. If God will intervene with evil, what will happen to us? We will only do what? Evil or good? We will only do good, right? And if we will only do good, then we will only love, correct? And if you will only love without deciding to love, is that really love? Love is not love when there is no decision. That's why God has given man freedom to decide whether he would pursue good or whether he would pursue evil. And when the person decides to pursue good, decides to follow God and to love God, God is glorified. Because we were designed to have a love relationship with God and not be a robot. For example, I don't know if you've seen this toy. Nakita niyo na ba tong toy na to? Sa Toy Kingdom, di ba yan yung dog that barks, that wags his tail, minsan nagka-tumbling pa. And that dog is a cute toy. And last Sunday, I saw my mom give my niece or her granddaughter a toy like this because we have a beagle. And kung nakita niyo na yung beagle namin medyo mataba eh. Parang hot dog. And this was a toy version of our beagle. And so I was observing the toy, and the toy is just, barking or wagging its tail. Yun lang. Two things. The toy was designed to bark and to wag its tail. Now, you can call that toy 1,000 times. Come here. But that toy will not come to you. Because that toy is designed to what? To bark and to, ano yung isa pa? To wag its tail. You can ask that dog, sit down or lick my feet. But that dog will never do that because it was only designed to bark or to wag its tail. You will never really be able to appreciate the love of a real dog if you have this toy. You will never be able to appreciate the affection of a dog, the dog who comes to you, who is excited when his master is home, because that is a real dog. Friends, we were not designed to be robots, God created us with the freedom to decide if we will love Him. And He is glorified when we decide to do so. When out of our own volition, out of our own will, we decide, Lord, I want to follow you. I want to love you because I understand what you have done for me as well. But some of you may be saying, okay, Mark, God has given us the freedom to decide whether we will do evil or whether we will do bad. But does that mean then that evil and good comes from God? Right? Then in the end, if evil and good comes from God, then evil is still from God. Then we can blame God. But friends, let me tell you this, that evil is just an absence of good. Let me repeat that. That evil is just an absence of good. That we should not blame God for evil because everything that God created is good. But it is man who decides not to do good, but instead to do evil. Let me try to give you an illustration, okay? Now, this is what will happen. Huwag kayong magpanic, okay? But this is part of the illustration. And this is not a drill, but I will ask the lights to be closed or to be turned off. Off talaga, off. Okay, di siya ganun kadilim, right? But here we now have darkness, right? Kita nyo ba yung katabi nyo? Kita ba? Okay, kita pa. Yung iba, kahit may light, hindi nakikita yung katabi. Anyway, now we have darkness, right? Is darkness a thing? Can you guys see me? Kita nyo naman ako. Is darkness a thing? Or is it something, that we can consider a thing? No, right? Because darkness is merely the absence of light. Now, light is a thing. Why is light a thing? Because light is energy. Right? Lakas na. Wow. Okay, parang lightsaber. Because light is a thing. And if you remember in Genesis, what did God say? Let there be light. So light is created. But darkness is merely the absence of evil, of light. In the same manner, cold. Cold is not a thing. But cold is merely an absence of what? An absence of heat. Because heat is what? Heat is energy. It was created. In the same manner, evil is just the absence of good. We can now turn on the lights. Evil is just an absence of good, because if you remember, when God created everything in Genesis 1:31, this is what it says in the Bible. God saw all that he had made, and behold, it was what? It was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day. That's why, friends, when evil things happen to us, let us not blame God. Let us not wave our fist and question the goodness of God, because it is man who decides to deviate from good. As it says in the Bible, everyone has sinned, and sin is the cause of evil. What God created is good. He did not create evil. But there are times, listen to this, there are times He permits evil for a certain reason that we might not be able to understand. But there's also times that He protects us from evil. I remember this situation that happened to me a couple of years back, and I was still working then. And somehow my office sent me to Melbourne for a 1-month project. And medyo pasaway ako, and hindi ako nakinig, and I went out alone. Okay? I went out alone because I wanted to buy some things and maybe some pasalubongs. So I went to the city proper, rode the train, and then went on shopping. Now, everything was perfect. I was able to buy whatever I needed to buy, and I was on my way home, and I was riding the train. And suddenly, biglang kinabahan. Biglang may nakita ako. There's a group of guys, group of young kids that really look very rowdy. And pag sinabi kong kids, guys, pag pumunta kayo sa Melbourne, yung mga bata doon ang lalaki. Okay, parang double my size, and they were very, very tall. So they were very rowdy, naghaharutan sila, ang kukulit nila. And I was already thinking, what will happen if this set of guys will bully me or will take what I bought? What will I do? So I can't remember what I actually did or if I prayed, but kinakabahan na ako. And so they went in the train, and I was sitting there, and then suddenly, the leader sat in front of me. Ako, yan na. Ano nang mangyayari dito? Tapos nagkatitigan kami, di ba? Kala mo may connection. Anyway, tapos nagkatitigan kami, and then he told me something. I can't remember the exact words, pero parang sinabi niya sa akin, shopping? Parang gumana siya sa shopping. Yeah. Pero walang Australian accent, shopping. And ako naman, I don't know what to say, ano yung comeback ko. And because I wanted to show na medyo tough guy ako o maangas, so sinabi ko lang, yeah. Yeah. Okay, pero kinakabahan na talaga ako noon kasi baka may gawin bigla, tawagin niya yung mga goons niya and kunin yung mga pinamili ko. But to make the long story short, nothing happened, you know. I said yeah, and then that's it. After the next train station, they all went down, and you know, I was just really thanking God. I was just really thanking God that I believe during that time that He protected me and He did not allow evil to happen to me. Because even in front of our hotel, minsan pag midnight, may marinig ka, nagbabasagan ng bote, may mga sumisigaw, and all of those things. So I was just really thanking God that He protected evil from happening to me. That's why, friends, sometimes when bad things happen to us, we question the goodness of God. But as far as we know, maybe there are so many situations already that the Lord has protected us, that the Lord did not allow evil to happen to us. But because there's just a specific situation that happened to us, sometimes we're just so quick to question God, so quick to wave our fists at God. Again, we do not know why there are times that the Lord allows evil. But for the things that we do not know, we place our faith in the Lord and we trust in what we know. And this is what the Bible says in Romans 8:28. Can everyone read with me, please? Romans 8:28. And we know that God causes all things to work for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to His purpose. Friends, God allows something evil to happen, but with this promise that even though that evil happened, He can always work it out for our good. Again, we need to remember that our knowledge of who God is will determine our response during bad situations. Because if we truly believe the truth that God can work out all things for our good, no matter if evil would happen to us, we would be able to thank God. Because we know and we believe who God is, that He can work it out for our good, that the Lord is good, that we will be able to forgive someone, even if that person wronged us, because we know who God is, that the Lord forgave us as well. That we would be able to really trust God despite that situation. And there's this one person in the Bible who really responded well, no matter how many setbacks he has experienced in his life. Do you know who that individual is? Aside from the Lord Jesus Christ. It is, in the Old Testament, it is Joseph. Now, who is Joseph? Joseph is an important figure in the book of Genesis, and he is an inspiration of how someone can respond well during the bad things that happen in their life, during the evil things that people have done to them. And Joseph was the favorite child of Jacob. He was the 11th child. And as you can see in the picture, Jacob gave him a beautiful coat. And because of that, his brothers were envious. Okay, they hated Joseph, and they wanted to kill Joseph. That's why there was a time that they were planning to kill him. But Reuben suggested something different. That instead of killing him, why won't we just sell him? At least kikita pa tayo. And so that is what they did. They sold Joseph to be a slave. Now think about this. If you were in Joseph's shoes, how would you feel? The one who betrayed you, who wronged you, are not just any individual, right? These are your brothers. These are your family members. These are people whom you expect will love you. These are people who you expect will take care of you. But you would see in the Bible that Joseph responded well. He never waved his fist at God and questioned God's goodness, to the point that he responded righteously. That's why when he was sold to be a slave in the house of Potiphar, the Lord blessed him, and he was successful in all he did. That's why we would see in Genesis 39, verse 2, that the Lord was with Joseph. So he became a successful man, and he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. Potiphar saw that everything that Joseph did became successful. He saw that the Lord's hand was upon him. That's why he made him to be in charge of his household, to the point that the wife of Potiphar noticed him. And you would even see, this is a long story, that in Genesis, the wife of Potiphar tried to lure him into bed, tried to tempt him to sleep with her. But I want you to see the response of Joseph, because this is his response in Genesis 39, verse 8. But he refused and said to his master's wife, "Behold, with me here, my master does not concern himself with anything in the house, and he has put all that he owns in my charge." Then verse 9, "There is no one greater in this house than I, and he has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife." Then he said this, "How then could I do this great evil and what? And sin against God?" You know, friends, if Joseph did not trust God, he could have said, "Lord, you allowed this evil to happen to you. You allowed me to be a slave. Why not indulge in immorality as well? Why not indulge in adultery as well?" But take note, what did he say? "How can I do this great and evil thing against God?" Because you would see that Joseph did not allow what his brothers did to him to affect his relationship with God. He still trusted the goodness of God. He still trusted that the Lord had a plan. Even though my brothers wronged me, that I will continue to honor him, that I will continue to please him in my life. That's why when people wrong us, when we experience evil, when we experience wickedness, we should do this. We should continually honor God despite evil surrounding us. And that would mean at times that we have to learn to forgive that person who wronged us. That even when evil happened to us, that we will still thank God and trust in His, what's the title of our message? Trust God's goodness. That's why I like the song that we that we sang a while ago. Though you slay me, right? Yet I will praise you. And it takes a lot of faith to do that, to continuously trust God no matter the evil that has happened to us. And so because Joseph continuously, wanted to honor God, to please God, he always rejected the offer of Potiphar's wife. And Potiphar's wife became so frustrated. Kaya anong ginawa ng asawa ni Potiphar? Right? He accused Joseph of trying to sleep with her or forcing her to have sex with her. And so this news spread around the household of Potiphar, and Potiphar got angry and he sent Joseph to prison. By this time, some of you may be saying, well, maybe this time, Joseph can now be angry at God. Joseph can now wave his fist at God. Number one, what happened? He was sold as a slave. By his whom? By his brothers. And now, he was accused of something that he did not do. Maybe this time, he will now get angry at God. But you will not see that happening in the book of Genesis. That Joseph continuously honored God and responded righteously. That's why even when he was in prison, the hand of the Lord was still with Joseph. The Lord still blessed Joseph, that he was able to interpret the story or the dream of Pharaoh's cupbearer and baker, to the point that it led him to eventually interpret the dream of Pharaoh. And when he was able to interpret the dream of Pharaoh, right? Pharaoh saw that this man had so much wisdom and so much discernment that he promoted Joseph to be the second highest official in Egypt. Just try to imagine the situation that Joseph was in. He experienced so much evil in his life, but at the end of it, the Lord blessed him. He became the second highest official in Egypt. And some of you may be saying, the Lord really rewarded Joseph, right? Because Joseph responded well, despite evil being done to him. But there was a bigger reason why the Lord allowed that evil to happen to Joseph. Because Joseph was being used by God as an instrument to save his family from the upcoming famine. This is a long story, and I'm just really going through it very, very quickly. But when Joseph was official, there was a famine in the land, and his brothers were forced to go to Egypt, because in Egypt there was so much grain. And so there was this time that Joseph had an encounter with his brothers. And to make the long story short, he was reunited with his brothers. And when his brothers realized that this is Joseph, the brother that they sold to slavery, they cannot believe that he is now the second highest official in Egypt. But here you would see, if you would just read to Genesis, that Joseph never harbored any bitterness or any anger towards his brothers. He openly welcomed them. Of course, there was a time of testing that he did, but he never became angry at them because he understood that God had a plan, that we can trust God's goodness. And he even said, and in Genesis 50, 20 to 21, as for you, he was talking to his brothers, you meant evil against me. But, what did he say? But God meant it for good. In order to bring about this present result, to preserve many people alive. So therefore, do not be afraid. I will provide for you and your little ones. So he comforted them and spoke kindly to them. That's why, friends, number one, when evil is being done to us, we are to honor God despite evil surrounding us. And number two, now this is the hardest, when evil things are being done to us, believe God causes all painful things for good. One man's pain can be another person's comfort. And even though Joseph experienced so much pain in his life, he was used by God to save his entire family. And he knows that the Lord had a reason. That's why he said, you meant it for evil, but the Lord meant it for good. And I know it's not really easy to respond in that way when evil things happen to us. But we need to believe. Again, what is Romans 8:28? For God works out all things for our good. And we need to trust His goodness. To continuously believe and cling on. Lord, I don't understand why you are allowing this. I don't understand why this is happening in my office, in my family. But I will trust that you know what you are doing and that you can turn these things for my good. What's the title of our message this evening? It is Trust God's Goodness. And in this time, I will ask everyone to have your breakout session as we will try to digest the message more. So here we would have 3 breakout questions. And these are the breakout questions. Number 1, have you experienced God turning something painful to something good in your life? Number 2, what are those moments that make you question God's goodness? And what are promises in the Bible that assure us of God's goodness? And number 2, what do you need to do to learn to trust God's goodness daily?